Hey everyone, for the latest Flick City, I have Radha Mitchell. Radha Mitchell is an actress who's done a myriad of work, just a whole diverse array of movies. You know, if you're a big Woody Allen fan, you might know her from the 2004 film Melinda and Melinda. If you're a gamer and you love thrillers, you have probably seen Pitch Black or the 2006 film Silent Hill, which that movie has gotten a lot more appreciation as the years go by. I really did not like her 2007 film Feast of Love, starring Greg Kinnear and directed by Robert Benton. When it first came out, I remember actually going to do a screening of Feast of Love and just harping on it with a buddy of mine as we walked to a nearby Mexican restaurant. I believe the restaurant, what was the name? Lucy's, right across the street from the Paramount Studios lot. I don't even know if that place still exists. I'm assuming it does. And for about an hour or so, I was complaining how this was the nadir, the low point of Benton's filmography, and I was just stupid in those days. I think, how old was I in 2007? I was 36. Now at 48, I recently saw Feast of Love again, and I appreciate that film on a much deeper level. I talk about that film with Radha during the interview. She also starred in this movie, Rogue, 2007, which was, I think I mentioned that, 2007. I loved Rogue. She was also in Henry Poole is Here, The Crazies, a movie that I believe Anderson really enjoys. I have not seen the 2010 film The Crazies. Olympus Has Fallen. She was in the short-lived TV series Red Widow. London Has Fallen she starred in. I interviewed her on camera for this 2016 film called The Darkness. She was in The Shack. And now she stars in a new movie called Dreamcatcher. It comes out on DVD and digital and on demand on Tuesday, April 28th. Okay, now here is the plot synopsis from IMDb. Quote, in order to stop his bad dreams, a young boy steals a dream catcher from a mysterious neighbor. That neighbor, by the way, is played by Lin Shaye, forcing his family to rescue him from a nightmarish entity. Okay, so now the story is penned by Carrie Harris, who is the director of the film, and co-written by Danvie Shaye by Danvie Shaye. So Radha Mitchell in this film, she plays Gail. She's a therapist. I believe she's a therapist who, I don't want to say ingratiates herself. She's actually the latest love interest of Luke. She's a girlfriend of Luke. Luke is the father of the kid, played by Finlay Wotjack Hisong. That's a name. He's Josh. Okay, so Josh is the kid. He has a traumatic past because his mother has passed on. He obviously misses his mother. And now there's a new woman in his life, Gail, who is essentially playing the role of his stepmother, and he will have none of it. Okay, so Luke, played by HenryThomas, he's trying to actually make that family really nice and happy. A nice new family unit. They're out in this cabin in this remote area in upstate New York. By the way, they shot in this area called Bovina, which I've never heard of, and Radha Mitchell talks about it in the interview a little bit. And so what happens is Josh, by stealing this Dreamcatcher, he starts having visions, nightmarish visions, or maybe it's reality of his late mother. And that Dreamcatcher, even though that Dreamcatcher is supposed to, I think, ward away the spirit of his mother, that Dreamcatcher, it's not that effective. It's just there's still spirits around affecting the way Josh behaves, and essentially Josh and Gail's relationship isn't so hunky-dory throughout most of the film. And Gail is, the movie has a really interesting ending that I talk about, that I actually asked Radha Mitchell about the really cool, interesting ending of Dreamcatcher. I thought it was really a memorable line, which I'm not going to give away in this episode. That ending, that spoilerific ending, Radha Mitchell talks about it for several minutes. I saved that audio for our Patreon subscribers, so if you want to actually listen to Radha talking about the ending of the film and how they got to the final ending, and I'll also give my little analysis of the ending of Dreamcatcher, check out our Patreon. That's going to be for our Patreon community. Check out our Patreon info. I'll leave the details on our show notes. Now, but the rest of the interview is here for you to listen to. I enjoy Radha Mitchell. Again, I'm a Woody Allen fan, so I really enjoyed Melinda and Melinda. I have not seen Silent Hill. I reappreciate really now Feast of Love. Rogue is another movie again like I really enjoy. I thought The Darkness was a mixed film, but ultimately it worked for me. The Darkness was directed by Greg McLean, who also directed Rogue, so I really like him as a director as well. Dreamcatcher, as far as that goes, this movie was a solid enough thriller for me. 3.5 out of 5. I loved Radha in this, and as you can see from this upcoming interview, she's very articulate. And you know what's interesting? She talks about her love for cinema, and one of her picks is this movie directed by Jean-Jacques Annaud, I think. It's called The Lover, and it's based on a Marguerite Duras novel. And I remember as a UCLA Daily Bruin critic watching The Lover, and as an Asian American, it was really weird for me to see. You got to think it's 1992, right? To see an Asian man and a white woman just commingle, just have an affair. And I never at 21 or 20, I was 21 at the time. Maybe I was stupid when it comes to watching movies. I had never seen an Asian and a white woman ever commingle like that and hook up like that. So that was an eye opener for me back in '92. So I really appreciate The Lover as a film. I wish I still had the article from my Daily Bruin days, but it's they don't have all my stuff online. I'm so old. I predated all that stuff. But anyways, here's Radha Mitchell talking about The Lover, her early days watching movies with her mother in this Melbourne theater called the Astor. They saw Cat People. So she talks about Cat People. She also briefly mentions this Tony Scott film called The Hunger, which for some reason I should have picked up because she ultimately worked with Scott years later in Man on Fire. Was The Hunger directed by Ridley, or was it directed by Tony Scott? Let me see. I could be completely wrong here. Sorry for the typing. Yeah, The Hunger was directed by Tony Scott, and I should have followed up on my interview because he actually worked with Radha on the 2004 film Man on Fire. I am an idiot, as you can tell from my horrible long preamble for Flick City. Here is Radha Mitchell. Thank you guys for the support. The upcoming Flick City episodes will have interviews with actress Essie Davis. You might know her from The Babadook, and also she's in this new movie called True History of the Kelly Gang. And I also have an interview with Issa Lopez, the director behind Tigers Are Not Afraid. That's on an episode that I will release later this week. Hope you guys are doing great. If you have any movie recommendations for me or Anderson, please email us at ourcinematics@gmail.com. Thank you guys for the support, and take care. Here's Radha.
Hi, good. How are you?
Good. You know, I talked to Dean Devlin the other day, producer Dean Devlin the other day, and he talked about how he loves to elevate escapist genre entertainment. And wondering for you, you started in your share of thrillers, and have you always been a fan of that genre since you were a kid?
Was I fascinated by the genre?
Yeah, just wondering.
I think the first movie that left an indelible impression on me was a movie called Cat People. Not the first one, but the second one.
Yeah.
And for some reason, my mom used to always take me to this, like a vintage, like an old-fashioned movie theater when I was a kid, this place called the Astor in Melbourne.
Yeah. Okay.
And they used to do reruns and whatever. And somehow I ended up seeing this movie at an age where maybe it was inappropriate. But for that reason, it like stuck in my mind. And I was always looking under the bed for the cat, the panther. And I think we look in cinema, obviously, for, a heightened sensation. And there is a sense when we're being like titillated or scared that we feel even more alive. So however you get to that state, is it, it could be in comedy, even whatever it is, something that really pushes you into an emotional state, I think is what creates cinematic memories. So yeah, I think I've sort of always been repelled by the genre, but also fascinated by it.
What's great about this movie is it has a lot of different layers. It's, on one sense, it's a horror thriller, but in another sense, a big part of the movie is really a family drama. And is that that family element, is that what attracted you to this movie, along with the cinematic?
I was going to say a good tagline for the movie would be a horror thriller for the whole family. Though there is a kind of a family feel to it. And not so much the family feel, but I was quite drawn to this unconventional relationship between this woman who's the therapist's stepmother and this young boy, and this kind of almost adult repartee where he's not pandered to like a kid. He's kind of, although he's having these childish sorts of nightmares, they speak to each other in a very adult way, and I found it kind of unusual and intriguing. And there's a certain subtlety even in the drama of the story that was, very interesting to me. And at first I was, there's a sort of crescendo as the story goes on, which at first I was a bit sort of like, and then when we were shooting it, that to me became the more compelling part of the story. Like, obviously when you get into this realm of almost surrealism and things go, completely in a more extreme direction, it became more fascinating because we'd set it up in a very naturalistic kind of way.
Yeah, and we shot the film was really interesting. Can you just talk about the location for Dreamcatcher? It felt really isolating. And yeah, what was that environment like?
It was big claustrophobic. I had just come in from like the south of France. I'd been at the Cannes Film Festival, and I flew into Bovina, upstate New York, which I thought was like a short drive to New York, and would go there every weekend. But when you get out there, there's no Wi-Fi reception. So I was put into this little log cabin just to kind of acclimate and kind of prepare for a couple of days. So I was sort of in this little cabin alone with no car and no Wi-Fi reception. So I immediately was sort of thrown into the experience of the character. And that whole region is magical and beautiful because you're kind of off the grid in a sense. While you're driving, there's no cell phone reception. There's no cell phone reception. There's Wi-Fi when you're in a place that has Wi-Fi. But when you're away from that space, there's no cell phone reception. So you feel, how we would have felt 20 years ago or 10 years ago even, just this sense of space, which is both, for someone who's sort of addicted to technology, it's a bit kind of uncomfortable, but it also gives you this reprieve. And there were people out there. Obviously, the real estate's kind of cheaper out there. There's people out there that are living in teepees and kind of dropping out in this very romantic, kind of Instagrammable kind of a way. So we met, we kind of hung out in those circles a little bit. But, it was just beautiful location, but definitely this sort of isolation and remoteness was intensified by the no phone situation.
Okay, Radha, just a very quick question right out of left field. About one of your films, and I'm sure a lot of people talk about a whole bunch of your movies, but I wanted to talk about Feast of Love, directed by Robert Benton. Really, I saw that film recently, and I really enjoyed it. Maybe 12, 13 years ago, I didn't really fully appreciate it. And now, at 48, I really enjoyed the film. Just wondering, what was your recollections of the movie and your feelings on working with Robert Benton and the cast and crew for Feast of Love?
I think a lot of the movies I've done may not have resonated in that moment, but they have a kind of resonance. And there's characters that you play even when you're playing them that you don't quite understand because you might not have the experience of the writer who wrote the character, or there's just a certain kind of moments in your life where things sort of shift your own perspective. So, I haven't seen that one in a while, but there was a certain cynicism to the character I was playing that I maybe didn't completely inhabit in my own life. But it was interesting, and it is interesting how things play out. There's a lot of cross-pollination between life and the imitation, and art, I guess. Over time, you see the kind of patterns. And you do sort of grow into the stories in a way, or see them more how they were seen by the perspective of the storyteller with time. Do
you feel that your acting, as time goes by, has gotten deeper with the more experience you have, with the diverse amount of actors, and filmmakers, crew members you've worked with over the years? Do you feel a different sense of knowledge and passion for what you do?
You know, everything I love I kind of hate as well, which is a bit confusing. But,
Yeah.
but no, I do feel like, in a sense, it's easier than it may have been in the past. I mean, certain things are different, but I think just the accumulation of experience takes the uncertainty of the process out of it. Like when you begin a career, you know, you have this hesitance. You don't even know if you can act, I guess, basically, whatever that craft of it is. And then when you, I guess, as you get older and just with more experience, the confidence develops there. And in a way, you become more sort of, you get more involved in the storytelling, I guess, more involved in the philosophy of the content, or more involved in how the story might be constructed. So that becomes, I guess, you can broaden your perspective on the thing. When you begin, you're just invested in only your own character and what you're doing in that moment.
I'm going to say
and
this.
with time, you get a picture of the whole story, is what I'm saying.
My last question is a movie question, and I know you're cinephile, and this is a tough one, but can you name one of your all-time favorite movies, and what is it about this specific film that continues to resonate with you today?
Oh my God, I have no favorite films, but just for some reason coming to my mind is this movie, The Hunger. And then another movie, The Lover, which was based on this Marguerite Duras book. And that was always one of my favorite books when I was studying in Melbourne at Swinburne University. It had its sort of postmodern narrative. And I thought they did an excellent job turning it into like an emotional, erotic, kind of poetic film. And I wish there was more poetry in film today. I feel like people have kind of lost this sense of cinema a little bit.
Thank you so much for your time, Rod. I really enjoyed the film, and good luck.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay, that's it. Again, The Darkness comes out on DVD, digital, on demand via Lionsgate on Tuesday, April 28th. Hope you enjoyed the interview. Thank you guys again for your support. Please rate and review our podcast. That definitely helps us with the podcast algorithm and gets us seen by more eyes, and more Flick City episodes to come, more interviews to come. And yeah, that's it. All right, guys. Oh, if you ever see Dreamcatcher, would love to hear what you think of the film, and maybe if you have any more Radha Mitchell movies that you love or recommendations, give us a shout out as well, because I'd love to hear from you. All right, take care and have a great week.